Their episode. It's not even an episode. This is just me hashtag causing a scene. This is what's happening in 2018. So today I want to talk about a topic that is a lot of people talk around. People act like they don't understand. So I just want to make sure that you understand from my perspective what this thing is. So it is let Kim-splain Mansplaining. So again, I always like to go to the dictionary. So Wikipedia defines mansplaining as a means to explain something to someone characteristically by a man to a woman in a manner regarded as condescending and patronizing. Explaining without regard to the fact that the explainee knows more than the explainer, often done by a man to a woman. And then they talk about a phenomenon to a combination of overconfidence and cluelessness. So those are the things that we're going to talk about. That's what we as women mean by mansplaining. So there's the context of what I'm going to be talking about. So let me tell you how I feel about mansplaining. Mansplaining, and I'm reading this because I'm a researcher at heart, and I want to make sure because outrage is reactive, strategy is proactive. So my strategy is to educate, inform. And so I'm going to read some notes that I took. So mansplaining to me is like having an unnecessary and overpaid middleman. It's like, no one asked you to chime in. Why are you here? And you're getting paid for it. So it's like, what are you doing? The next thing is, and I only can speak from Kim's perspective, because this is Kim-splaining. Don't assume that my glazed over look during our conversation stems from my lack of understanding. It may just be uninteresting, but more likely either the subject matter or you are boring me. So don't assume because I'm not engaging in the conversation or I have this blank look on my face that I don't understand. Majority of the time, because if I don't understand, trust me, I'll ask. And that's like most people. If I'm not engaged in the conversation, more than likely the topic is uninteresting to me or you are. So just take that as what it is. Another point is, and I said, and please don't ask if I need, this is another one. Don't ask me if I need anything explained because I'm capable of requesting further clarification or because and also because I have access to the internet. So I have access to the same information you do have, so I can research it myself. So I don't need you to say, because I have this look, do you need me to explain that to you? No, if I needed you to explain that to me, I would say, hey, could you explain that to me? I need further clarification. And unless you're in currently, when you're having these conversations, an environment that is academic in nature, you're in the role of professor, they're in the role of instructor, you're in the role of teacher, they're in the role of student, you're in the role of coach, they're in the role of whatever. Do not take the following recommendations as an opportunity to administer a pop quiz. This is not what this is about. So this is not you peppering me or peppering anybody with a whole bunch of questions to prove either how smart you are, how dumb they are, or put them on the spot and all this other stuff. This is not what this is. So the following recommendations are for you individuals who have been accused of mansplaining, or you might just be interested in wondering if this is something you, not knowing if you're doing it, but you don't want to do it. So here are my recommendations of how to do this. So before you open your mouth, make sure you check your understanding. So stop and think, let me make sure I'm checking my understanding. And then what you want to do is ask a question. Okay, because you're putting it on me. My understanding is this what you said? Is this what you said? So what you're doing is trying to get confirmation to see if you're on the same page. So, And you're not doing it in a condescending manner. You're actually just, hey, this is because you're just trying to understand. This is what I heard, and so I want to make sure that what I heard is what you said. That's the first thing. And so if you're congruent or if you're in line, then okay, you're good. You can move on. But if that individual says, no, that's not what I said or what I meant or my intention or whatever, this is how you move forward. So you ask probing questions, but there are caveats to asking these probing questions. You can only do this if asking these questions won't cause emotional labor to the individual you're wanting to understand. And that's another thing, you have to want to understand. You're not doing this to make yourself feel big or smart or whatever. You have to have a genuine interest in wanting to understand. If you don't have that, just walk away from the conversation. Just say, I don't get it, and just leave. But if you really want to understand, ask probing questions, but make sure what you're doing, if asking a probing question would cause emotional and labor for that individual, find a way to become more informed on your own, because they have no responsibility to educate you. That's your job. We all have access to the same information. So if you get the feeling that, or sometimes you just know that this is just way more than what this conversation is supposed to be, and it's going to cause them emotional labor to explain themselves, and maybe they're just uncomfortable, just don't put them in that situation. But if you are in a situation where you can ask probing questions, say something like, to ensure that we are communicating, I'm understanding you after you've realized that you didn't understand. Would you provide further context or examples, or could you just, and do it in a nice way? Because you're really, as we already said, you're genuinely interested in understanding. And then use your active listening skills. And by this, I mean, listen for points of similarities to some things that you already know that you can make connections to. And then that would help your understanding. So if there's a subject, so you're just listening and you're like, oh, okay, I think I get, okay, I see what you're saying. That reminds me of this thing. So try to make connections on your own. Again, that's taking the emotional labor off the individual. It's forcing you to make the connections in your own perspective and experience. And remain quiet. Just shut up. Don't say anything. And then use your active listening skills to ensure that they're finished. So look at their body language. Don't interrupt them, because you've asked them to help you with something. So allow them that opportunity. And then paraphrase what you've heard with the new connections that you've made, and ask for confirmation. Okay, so so paraphrase what you said, because what you just said reminded me of this thing. Is that a good example? Is that a great example of what you're just talking about? And then they can say, yeah, no, whatever. And then iterate that process. I'd say 2 times. If you aren't getting it by the second time, drop it, let it go. And at some point, the person's verbal or nonverbal clues should indicate that the conversation, if at some point their verbal or nonverbal clues are indicating that the conversation is becoming emotional labor, thank them for their time. And if understanding this is important to you, then you go out and do the work. Then you do the labor of figuring out what that is. Thank them for opening your eyes to this. You had no idea about this thing or this perspective or this view or whatever, and just walk away and change the subject or whatever. That is how we get beyond mansplaining. We cannot assume just because I said something and it does not resonate with your connections that I need to be explained to, or that what you said I don't understand. We need to stop making assumptions and ask for clarity, ask for confirmation. So that's Kim Creighton. I'm messing up my own name. Kim-splain Mansplaining. And again, I am #cause a scene.